What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Weekly Dose of Dano TV with your host here, Dano, coming back with the best content that you're going to find on the internet after a little bit of a 2-week hiatus, only because we had so many things to do. And also, I believe last week was a holiday as well. It was the 4th of July, and I was down the shore, if I'm going to be honest with you guys. So it was just a lot of fun, but it's so great to be back here with my positivity posse on this Thursday night, and we're going to be talking about the transformation journey and what it's going to take to start, what we're going to have to do in order to maintain that positive momentum. And I would say, how is it all going to end up and where we're going to go? But we can never finish everything that we want to do in this life, right? Because it's going to take many, many lifetimes just to try to really achieve everything that we want to do. But why not start right now? Now is the perfect time because it's the youngest that we're ever going to be. And obviously, if it's been biting you or this journey of transformation has been bugging you and you know that you need to get on it, well, now's the perfect time to start. So we're going to cover all this great content in this short amount of time, which is an hour, because you already know every time that we come on here, it really is the quickest hour of the week, but also the best hour of the week as well. So thank you so much for being here. And let's get started with another episode of Weekly Dose of Dano TV. Let's get it, everybody. There it is. You know what the vibes are. It's always a great time and so great to be back here with you this week on Weekly Dose of Dano TV to talk about the journey of transformation, as I mentioned before. And I chose this topic this week because I know for me, I have been just really locked in and besides the 4th of July when I just said, right, how am I going to say I'm locked in and I was just down the shore? No, but besides that one time, I've just been really locked in and really understanding what it takes to go about and what it takes to be on this journey of transformation, because I know everything that I've been doing right now has been leading me to my highest and greatest good. And it's just so great to be able to say, hey, well, I'm actually on this path. And this is some of the things that I've learned so far. And I just love to, share it with you guys and to help anybody that's out there that's on the Positivity Posse that's watching this. And by the way, whether you're watching live or on the replay, just please, make sure that you're giving this a like or sharing this with somebody that needs to hear this amazing, great, super wonderful content that we always post here on Weekly Dose of Dano TV. But yeah, that's why I picked this one. And I know for me, it's been a little bit of a challenge because anything that's really rewarding is always challenging, right? And it's just really great because I know that everything that we're doing in our line of purpose and journey and transformation is leading us to the path that we want to be, right? If you want to live that life of abundance, whether it's monetary, or you want to have great relationships with your family, or you just want to go to the countryside and do whatever it is that you want to do. I don't know what it is that you want to do, but those are just some examples. But if we don't transform, we're just going to receive more of what life is throwing at us, whether that's good or bad, right? And I don't really like to use the term good or bad, because if everything is helping us and leading us and teaching us, then how can that really be a bad thing, right? But if life is giving us things that we would prefer them not to, is a better way to say that, then, we have to make some change, because obviously it's trying to teach us something, it's trying to show us something. And that's the best way to really learn, right? Is through life lessons. And life doesn't discriminate whether you're, white, black, tall, short, up, down, doesn't matter. It's the best teacher, and it's always showing us what we need to learn in our lives. So thank you so much for tuning in to all my Positivity Posse. Thank you for commenting as well. We have Christopher Casson here. Go check him out. He is always posting great, wonderful content as well. So Thank you so much, Chris, for being here. And he says the greatest problem people have is expecting to never have problems in life. Yes, that is so. See what I mean about how he's always posting great content? Yes, 100%. And how is it that you expect to elevate if you don't encounter these problems, right? Because it is possible to, for life to just go that smooth for you. But chances are we haven't really been taught that way unless you were really young. But there's also a lot of gold and a lot of things that we can take away from the problems in our life. So thank you, Chris. I agree with you 100%. Jeanette says the green lighting in the background is fire. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for being here, Jeanette, live and commenting on Facebook, which I see, and then Christopher on YouTube as well. And, Chris, it's so funny because I want to take this not in a religious sense, but you hear kind of religious people say it all the time, where they say, oh, God, I'm praying for peace and comfort. And then he gives you all the things and all the life experiences and all the life events that need to happen for you to know what peace and comfort is. But then when it comes to us, it's like, oh, well, I didn't want that. Well, yes, you did, because number one, you need to know what life, peace, and what peace and comfort is. But number two, it teaches us how to navigate those problems right now, so that when we do experience them in the future, that is the ultimate test to see if we have changed or not, right? Because if we are repeating the same life lessons over and over, and it's the same events with the same situations and maybe different people, if we're just repeating the same things, then we can't truly change. Then we will never receive the things that we want, because we can't change from the beginning. So Chris says right here, that quote was from a Buddhist story I've heard. But yeah, it's just so true. And here's the quote again: the greatest problem people have is expecting to never have problems. And that's crazy, right? Because how have we come into this earth and to really think that we're not going to have problems? It's really interesting. And especially too, and that can go with anything too. It doesn't have to be specifically the journey of transformation, but if you say you want that significant person that you want to attract into your life, well, you kind of need to go through what it is that you don't want in your own life, right? And you don't have to experience it in your own life per se. You can see other people and learn from their mistakes. But it's really to understand that we need to go through these things because they're ultimately teaching us whatever it is that we need to learn while we are here on this earth. So Lou, thank you for tuning in and commenting. He says, let's go. And congratulations to you as well, because I know you just won a big award. You just won the trophy or the championship for the team that you were coaching. So congratulations to you and to your team as well. I know you guys are super excited. Something that I still have yet to do for my basketball tournament and for my basketball team, I really need to win that chip too. So hopefully that's next for me as well, which is pretty hard to do. So like I said, congratulations, man. That's awesome. Hashtag positivity posse. And then we have Jeanette here that says life lessons are priceless. Yes, you can't put a price on it. I mean, unless you obviously that lesson cost you some kind of money. There's no monetary value that you could always put on it. So yes, I agree. It definitely is priceless. So let's get started with the meat and the potatoes of the show. And we're going to talk about the journey of transformation. So there's 4 pillars, if you want to call them, or 4 things that I think we need to really understand when it comes to the journey of transformation. And here are those 4 things. So number 1, we need to start off with awareness. Number 2, we need to have a great perspective. Number 3, we need to understand the power of our choices, no pun intended, because as you all know, I do run the program, or I'm the co-founder of the Power of Choices with my guy, Mark Hoberman as well. So I guess it's kind of a plug, a little bit of a shameless plug, whatever, you know what it is here on Weekly Dose of Dano TV. And then number 4, we have action, which to some people, this could be the hardest portion. So whatever you deem the hardest portion is in your life, we're going to talk about all of those great things and how we need to navigate through them. And also, since you guys are all lighting it up in the comments, if there's a technique or a piece of advice that you've overcame or that you had to learn the hard way, please share it here on Weekly Dose of Dano TV, because you never know what member of the positivity posse you are helping along in our journey, right? It can be, you can help the person that's commenting right now and they can see it live and we can say, yeah, thank you so much. I'd never really thought about it that way. Or the member of the positivity posse that doesn't really comment and they're watching maybe in the dark or passively or maybe even on the replay. So thank you so much, and be sure to do that. So number 1, Let's get to it. Actually, one more thing. Obviously, you got to show anytime somebody comments hashtag positivity posse, that's just pouring into ourselves. So we got to share that great energy with the stream, with ourselves, and with the greater good of the world that's out there as well. So, all right, here it is. Let's get started with all the good stuff. So now we're going to talk about awareness. So I believe awareness is the first piece of the puzzle that we need to solve, right? Because how can you change a problem, or how can you recognize the good in your life that's going on if we aren't aware of it happening, right? Because that's really the start of it all. Because for somebody that's going through a rough time in their life, they become aware of that rough time and they're saying, wow, I'm not really fond of what life is giving me. So what do I need to do to change? And in order to change, you became aware. So congratulations, that was the biggest part. And here it is, awareness, how it relates to personal growth. This is literally everything when it comes to, well, I don't want to say literally everything because there's 4 things that we have to talk about, right? So that's kind of redundant. But when we become aware, we can make the active choices and the active changes that need to happen in our lives. And if we don't have that awareness in our life, then the things, we're just going to be repeating them and not be on that, transformation or journey of change. So there are so many reasons why we become aware of whatever it is that's going on in our lives. Like I said, number 1, there could be a big life event that happens to us that forces us to change and forces us to become aware of our habits, right? That could be something as simple as not having enough money in the bank account, right? When you look at it, you become aware and you say, damn, I need to have some more money in my pocket or more money in my account. And that could be something that forces us on our transformation of change. Another thing is it can be a big life event. Let's say if you just had a child. I know that's the biggest event that kind of happens in people's lives that forces them to change. And then once that child does come into this world, then we start to think of ourselves, all right, if I take a total look, or if I am aware of what's going on in my life, do I want to bring this child into that same environment? If the answer is yes, then you are aware of that. But if the answer is no, then you're still aware of that, right? So there's so many different reasons as to why we become aware. And it's important that we do become aware, and not just, ignorance is not bliss. I don't know where that quote came from. I don't know who said it, but that is the furthest thing from the truth, because the things that we don't know about, most likely, and a big portion of the time, are the things that actually hinder us and keep us from getting to our greatest good in life, right? Because think about it. When we say that ignorance is bliss, would you say that in relation to money? So if you were to say, all right, well, I don't know how to make money, and since I don't know, that's actually serving me because I'm ignorant of that fact. No, that's not helping you. If you knew how to make money, then you can implement the strategy, and then you can go make more money. Or a big one is, I know with the younger guys out there, damn, if I knew how to pull all the women, then that would be what I would be receiving in my life. But just because you are ignorant of any information that it is that you want to learn, that is hindering you. That's not helping you. So ignorance is not bliss. Let me make that clear. But on the positive note, there is anything that it is that we want in this world, we can learn it. So if we want to learn how to make more money, or get the women, or learn how to build a house, or learn how to develop our relationships to be the best and the biggest that they can be, great news, you are able to learn how to do that as well. And Lou says right here, that's the truth, and a lot of motivation has to come from within. 100%, there is a huge difference between motivation and inspiration as well. When it comes to motivation in our journey of transformation, I'll talk about that a little bit later, but just a quick point. Motivation is great, but we have to remember that that's an outside source, right? When we look at YouTube videos, when we are in groups of people that are doing the same things that we're doing, when we're looking at content, anything it is, just make sure that we do, yes, potentially need motivation. But if you're saying that motivation is coming from within, like you just commented right there, then I think we need some more inspiration, right? Because inspiration is inside of us. And that is what's going to keep the fire going. Because honestly, if we were to try to use external forces as our fuel, we're going to get burned out very quickly. Number one, I know a lot of people use like haters and negative Nancy's. And for the people that said, I'm never going to do this, I'm going to prove them wrong. all of that stuff starts to go to the wayside, because when we're locking in and on our journey of transformation and we're doing everything that we need to do, well, you're not really going to be focused on the haters anymore, right? Because you're going to be doing everything that you need to do to get to that next level. And if that's the case, then where is your fuel going to come from? Lou, right here, you just said it, from within. And 1000%, you are so right. And there is no greater fuel than everything that comes from within us, because number one, you get a limitless supply of it, right? Because if you know what your why is, and when you're on that journey of purpose, and you know the reasons why you are being the best version of yourself that you can be, then you are just going to find that reason within inside of yourself every single time, because it's literally only a thought away, right? You can just think to yourself, well, what's my why as to why I'm doing this? Bam, you can just get it right there, and your fuel system and your fuel supply is right there, forefront and center at your mind, and then that'll just give you that extra inspiration that you need to go forward. So we'll talk about that a little bit later too. That's just a little Spark Notes version as to why inspiration is a little bit more beneficial than motivation. Don't get me wrong, I'm not totally discrediting motivation, because when you start to look at other people that have done the things that we have done or that we want to do, then of course you can learn from them. You can get that extra motivation to say, wow, if they can do it, well, I can do it too. And I guess if you use that line of thinking, then I can do it too, then that just really sparks your inspiration a little bit more, right? So I guess it kind of all ties back to inspiration as well. But thank you, Lou, for leaving that great point. I agree with you 100%. So now, like I said, we're just talking about awareness. And when we do become aware, here are the three things that we need to look at in our life in order to increase our awareness. And here it is. Number one, we can look at our emotions. Number two, we can look at the events that have manifested in our life. And then number three, we have to be aware of our self-talk. Now, if all of these things in your life are that you're aware that have not really been to your greatest and highest good, and that they're happening in the ways that you would not prefer them to, well, congratulations. Now, since you are aware of that, we can make that decision to change. But these three indicators are what we need to understand to really make sure that our journey begins with inside of us. And if our emotions are in check, and we're angry all the time, or we're sad, or we're vibrating at a low emotion, well, that's a great sign, because that's showing us what we don't want in our lives. And these are the three easiest things that we can do to be aware of, or become aware of, to see, all right, hey, am I on the right path, or really I need to change on my path? And I think a big thing is self-talk too, because a lot of people don't become aware of how they talk to themselves, or their belief systems that they do have. I was actually, I don't know if I've ever shown it, that exact clip on the street segments that I used to do. There was a question that I asked the guy, and I believe this was the question. If you had a friend that talked to you the way that you practice your self-talk, how long would you keep that friend around for? And the gentleman, he actually said, oh, well, I don't talk to myself. I don't know what that means, because I don't have like a voice inside of my head that I talk to. And in my head, I tried to really help this gentleman understand that you do, right? Because when we are in complete silence and the thoughts come into our mind, or let's say if we're in complete silence and we read a book, if you're not speaking, but you're reading all of the words that are on that page, then who is it that's talking? I mean, you can make the case, we can get real deep here and say that, well, that's not really you, that's the observer. And then when you do the meditation, you're observing the observer, right? But just for simplicity's sakes, that is you, and that is the voice of self-talk that's going on in that mind. Because in that same token, or on the same side of that coin, if we're having that negative self-talk and we're never aware of where that voice is coming from, then we're not going to be able to change it, right? And I'm pretty sure I can find that video for you guys as well. And I'm going to play a little bit of it, because I know for a fact it is on here. Chris says right here, I'm aware that I'm tempted to get Australian iced coffee and this 100-degree plus heat, despite wanting the quick coffee. I don't know where it is that you are, that it's 100 degrees plus, but I'm praying for you. Just make sure you're safe and you're staying in that air conditioning. And obviously, if you drink coffee too, that might increase your heart rate a little bit more. So it's going to make you even hotter. But man, I know that when it comes to having that coffee, I'm the same way. Like I always have my coffee every single morning. Number one for the energy, but two, the taste, man. It's just absolutely great. But all right, let me just go back to what we were just talking about that self-talk. And here it is. I know I'm going to be able to find that video for you guys. Let me just take it for a second. And I believe this is the video. I'm just going to play about a minute of it, and then I'm going to cut it off right where that point is. What's going on, everybody? This is Dano, television show host of Weekly Dose of Dano TV. And today we're in the streets of Philly asking everybody the questions that you need the answer to. Let's get it. Do you think that money can buy happiness?
Maybe.
Maybe?
No.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Dano, television show host of Weekly Dose of Dano TV, and you already know what we're doing today. We're going around in the streets of Philly asking everybody the questions that you need the answers to. Let's get it. Just to give you guys one quick piece of information before we start the segment, there is no known theory as to why the Liberty Bell has a crack in it. So, what's your name, miss?
Katie.
Katie, I'm Dano. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So the question for today is, if you had a friend that talked to you in the same manner which you talk to yourself internally, how long would you keep that friend around for?
Well, I have to say, I try to talk to myself pretty realistically and not give myself too hard a time. So I would hope my friend would do the same for me.
Yeah.
And hear me out, even if I'm in a bad mood, and then help get me into a better mood.
So, sir, what's your name?
My name is William.
William, nice to meet you, William. I'm Dano.
Nice to meet you, Dano.
So, here's the question for today.
Yes.
If you had a friend that talked to you the same way that you speak to yourself inside your mind, how long would you allow that friend to be around for?
As long as we ain't got no problems, he'd be my friend for the rest of my life. I keep myself around positive people.
Now, do you speak to yourself internally in that positive aspect as well?
No, I don't speak to myself at all. But sometimes, you know, we go through stuff in our minds and we...
All right, so I just wanted to show that to you guys. And did you hear? He says, I don't speak to myself at all. Well, like I just said, when we are aware of that voice that happens in our head, then that's us talking to ourselves. And it can be as something as simple as, all right, I got to go to the grocery store today and I got to go pick up a loaf of bread. Or it could be something serious, like how am I going to figure out the situation that might be going on in my life? So just for everybody out there, we all have our form of self-talk. And it's just important to be aware of it so we can know how to change whatever it is that's going on in our lives as well. So I'm going to play a quick commercial to hear from our first sponsor, which is Great Success. And so if you have a kid, Great Success is absolutely amazing. If you have a child that needs some extra tutoring or they just need some study skills or anything to help them in the school sector, Great Success is the best place to go and to learn more and to help your kid as well. I just wanted to touch this. Yes, the street segments are fire. And you could tell that one was in the wintertime too, because you saw snow on the ground and we were still out there making it happen as well. But like I said, here is a word from our first sponsor, Great Success.
At Great Success, it's our job to make sure that your child succeeds in school regardless of the subject or grade level. Our tutors are trained professionals who know how to promote learning and encourage results. Whether you are looking for help with SAT, ACT prep, private and group tutoring, K through 3 reading programs for your child, or educational consulting and college counseling, here at Great Success, we can help you find the right answer. Visit GreatSuccess.com to learn more about our in-person and online program options. Great Success, where your child's success is our business.
That was Great Success. Thank you so much to Mark Hoberman for sponsoring Weekly Dose of Dano TV and Great Success. I have actually had the pleasure of sitting in on a what do you call it, a live webinar that he's done before. And man, if you just go to that webinar one time, you'll see exactly what it is that we need in order to obtain, if your child needs those extra study skills, what they need. And he's the man as well. I had to run downstairs really quick to grab some water, and I spilled my water all the way over here. So if I'm out of breath, that's why. And it's just a really, really great time. Thank you so much for everybody for being here as well. All right, here it is. Now moving on to the next one. Now, since we are aware, like I said, the awareness is first step. Second is perspective. Third is going to be the choices that we do make. And then number 4 is going to be the actions that we need to take in our lives in order to implement the actual change, right? Because if we don't take the action, then all of this stuff is just kind of useless, right? Just because you know about it, it's about applying everything it is that we need to learn in our lives and how to do it. So, all right. So here it is. We are talking about the topic of, what were we talking about? Awareness. And here it is, what to look for. Emotions, manifested events, self-talk. And then now we're going to talk about our perspectives. So if there's one thing that I think is the most important out of these 4, it is perspective right here, because this is going to be the difference into what makes success or what makes failure. And you can think about the classic example that everybody uses: the glass half full or is it half empty? And I really think that this is so important, because this will eliminate a lot of negativity, whether it's self-talk or negative emotions that we experience in our lives, that is going to make a difference. And if you think about somebody that talks about, the glass being half empty, well, what's their viewpoint on the world? Most likely, you're going to see that, they're turning on the news and they're really invested into that doom and gloom. And the things that start to transpire or manifest from those low vibrating emotions, it's not going to be great things. And I want to be crystal clear when I say, of course, not every day is going to be rainbows and sunshines and butterflies. But if we just constantly harp on the negative perspective that we can possibly have in this life, then that's not serving us. It's not getting us to our greatest and highest good. But when we start to change our perspective and focus on the light, well, we're going to start to receive more light. And like I said, I think perspective is everything, because this is the literal difference on if you're going uphill in your life or if you're going downhill. And if we are, you can take 2 people that experience the same events. And I know a classic example as well of, if you've probably seen it too, or you maybe know somebody. Let's say you have a set of brothers, right? They can even be twin brothers. One of them is seeing everything and using his perspective to be the highest and greatest. And the other one is just, negative Nancy, and he's not really, really loving life, and he's looking at it half empty. If you have, let's say that their father or their mother or whoever is raising them is an alcoholic, most of the time you'll see that if that person that has the greater perspective says, all right, well, I see what is happening and I see what happens when somebody drinks, so I'm not even going to touch alcohol, versus somebody that looks at it and they're like, wow, well, he did it, so this is kind of what I have to do in my life too. That difference in perspective is what's going to set somebody up for success or what's going to set them up for failure. And I know some people might use that example and say, well, you got to look at the genetics and you got to look at X, Y, Z and their environment and blah, blah, blah. No, that's not true. Yes, it may have an impact on you if you subscribe to that and you believe that that's the case. But there are plenty of examples out there that don't support, the people that think of this world or of their reality, right? Because you can use the same example as somebody that's growing up in the hood or in a negative environment. There are plenty of examples and people that you hear about all the time that say, wow, well, I use this as positive fuel because I had a great perspective on it from a young age. And this is why I was able to become successful, versus somebody that sees that, they get inspired by it, and, they take, they go down the wrong path. And like I said, this is why these perspectives are so important, because it's literally what's going to define success and failure in your life. So now we're going to talk about some techniques. Let's say if we are in a negative perspective, how do we change that, right? Because if we don't learn how to change it, then how can we actually change? So here it is. We're going to talk about techniques in order to reframe challenges. And the best one that I can give you off the rip is that you need to understand that whatever life is throwing you, it is all serving you and teaching you something in order to get onto that greatest path that you need to get on. And I'm going to tell you guys about 2 examples that I know about off the bat. So the first example is this. There was, one girl that I used to know back in the day, and her grandmother got into a car crash. And there was some of the family that said, oh, well, this is the worst thing that could have happened. Why is this happening? I don't understand. And there was only one person in that group that heard about the crash and said, well, actually, this is probably the best thing that's going to happen to her. And you had everybody else that was going down that one person's neck in their throat saying, what the heck is wrong with you? How could you possibly say that? This just happened to her, and, everything that was going on in that situation. Lo and behold, about, I think, a week later, because that person, threw that out there and mentioned that, they actually ended up finding that the person that got into the car crash had cancer. And with that positive mindset to say, all right, well, this is going to work out in her greatest good, they were actually able to find the cancer very early on in her life, or on the stages, and they were able to eliminate it. And I just thought that, like, that situation or that scenario always stood out to me, because that person took that perspective of something that could have been, really bad, or like I said, really bad, or just really negative, and they spun it, and they actually gained a positive out of it. And even though you might be going through whatever it is that you're going through right now, and you may not see what that reason is just yet, you have to kind of put or assign a positive meaning to it and have a positive perspective to it, because that's what's going to give you the lesson that you need to learn. But if you're just looking at it from a negative perspective to say, oh, well, woe is me, why is this happening to me? I just can't catch a break. This should be happening to somebody else. These are the negative things that happen, and the pitfalls that happen from having a negative perspective. That's not going to get us out of that hole and climb to be the greatest and highest good that we can be. So Christopher says right here, people view their perspective as the full truth instead of looking deeper to see it is but a fraction of the truth. Yes, that is so true. And when we have this idea, well, I know that I practice meditation all the time. And one of the greatest benefits that I've learned from meditation is that you are never truly going to understand everything as the full truth. And as Christopher said, people are just so ingrained in defending their points and saying you're wrong and I'm right, without ever acknowledging that small percentage, which is not really a small percentage, but I'm just going to say it, without acknowledging that small percentage that they may be wrong, or that there is another version or side or truth to whatever experience that's going on. And I can, with taking that, experience with a grain of salt, or when you start to look at everything in the perspective of a learner and not, or, somebody that's studying life and not from the perspective of somebody that knows it all, that is when we can really start to know what the truth is, right? Because there's a popular saying, as you all know, there's 3 sides to every story, right? Your side, their side, and the truth. But when we start to understand that our perspective is only a small portion of that truth, then that's when we can start to go deeper and really learn what it is that we're supposed to learn in our lives, whether that's lessons, whether that's in order to, receive more blessings, or to really figure out what the truth is. Because who's to say that, your truth and my truth are the same, right? Or if they're actually the truth. But it's so true that their perspective is, they feel like that's everything to them, because they've never sat back and observed who is observing the situation, right? Or who that person really is. Because a lot of people really identify their personality and their entire being with the labels that they have been assigned to in life, right? Like, you are not your business card. You are not the car that you drive. You are not whatever city you grew up in. You're not your name. You're not your race, your religion, your ethnicity. All of that stuff has been placed to us in order to really divide us, as we all know. But like Chris said, when you take that positive perspective to say, wow, well, maybe there is a little bit more that I need to learn, then we can go and start our path of journey. And when we have that positive perspective, when the things and events start to transpire in our lives, we can use that as positive fuel as well, right? Because we have a good perspective on life. So there it is. So the next thing, obviously, when it comes to having a good perspective in life, you need positivity and you need gratitude. And all of this stuff may sound nice, like, oh, you're just living in a fairy tale land. The things that you're talking about sound nice, but when you're going through life, it's not really happening that way. Well, I just want to show you guys, as I've shown you guys plenty of time before, in relation to the law of attraction, our emotional vibrational chart. So obviously, when you are vibrating at a place of positivity and gratitude, we are at a higher place of consciousness, whether that's peace and joy and love. And obviously, when these positive vibrations, when we emit them through our lives, and through our emotions and just in life in general, we are going to receive more of that, which is why it is so important that we need to take everything with positivity and gratitude, and even peace as well. But, that's kind of something that is going to be learned in order to achieve peace. But if you don't have this, and I'm just going to remove this banner from the screen, what are you going to be vibrating at? You're going to be at guilt, you're going to be at shame, at grief and fear. And as we all know, when we are vibrating at those emotions, good things will come far and few between because you're not allowing them to happen to us as well. And one more point too is that when we are at these grief and this fear and this shame and all of these negative vibrations, then our perspective will start to go down as well. I'm just trying to take this off the screen 1 second. Yeah. So then our perspective is at a negative perspective because we are looking at the events that are manifesting in our life, and we're like, wow, well, see, I knew this was going to happen. And then when you're saying that you knew that this was going to happen, you're just going to call more of it into your life. So it's just a negative circle that you're just going to be repeating forever and forever. But when we do have that perspective change to say, well, why is this happening? What is this trying to show me? How can I gain an advantage from this situation? And what do I need to learn? Then we can start to break that change of that negative cycle that we are just repeating. If you are in that section, but if you're not, if you're in that, positive cycle of happiness and peace and love, great. Keep doing whatever it is that you're doing. And right here, Jeanette says, great points. Law of attraction will bring you more of what you think about. There's so many great things that we can go to learn more about the law of attraction. Yes, there's a movie called The Secret. There's books, countless resources to learn more about the law of attraction. So go out there if you're interested to learn about it as well. And one final thing about that too is that it is a law. So it's the truth. Like there's no way, if, ands, or buts around it. And that is why it's considered a law. So here, Chris says, it's not about trying to block or ignore the negativity either. It is simply to see it as it is, as it comes, and as it passes. Like observing clouds in the sky and not being attached to how the clouds should be as well. And thank you so much for making this point as well, because as you know, it's not about, well, as we know, it's not about ignoring the negative in our lives either. But it's not really negative if we put a positive perspective on it, right? Because if we are assigning a positive perspective to the negative things that are happening in our lives, then how is it that it's a negative event if we are learning from it, if we're growing from it, if we are potentially, bottom line is this, if we are headed towards our greatest and highest selves from a negative situation, then how is it that it's a negative situation, right? And it's not about ignoring it, because obviously you can't ignore things that happen to us because it's still going to pester at you, right? Have you ever tried to ignore, if somebody sends you can't ignore bills, right? And that can be considered as a negative, thing that happens in our lives because it's taking money away from us. But obviously, if you try to ignore it, it's just going to pester at you, and it's always going to be there without knowing what the root problem is or where it's coming from. So you're just going to receive more of it because that's going to be the dominant vibration. You may be ignoring it, but if you're still conscious of it, then it's up to you and it's up to us really to understand and go deep into it to find out what it is that we need to learn from that situation as well. And thank you so much for saying that, because that's, I want to make that clear, and Chris made it clear. We're not ignoring anything. We're not blocking anything. We're just assigning it a positive value, because a simple formula that you guys can get to understand is this: positive meaning in, positive meaning out, negative meaning in, negative meaning out. So if you assign a positive meaning to a negative situation, you are changing the perspective of what you retain from that information that you're going to retain from that event. And then you're able to take that and move forward to attract more positivity into our lives. So there it is. Thank you so much for bringing that up, Chris. That's a great point. So next is actually, I'm just going to play a quick commercial from our next sponsor. It Takes a Village Housing. And this is a coat drive that they did, I believe it was sometime last year. And their events and their just the organization, the nonprofit It Takes a Village Housing, is doing some great things here in the city of Camden, New Jersey. So reach out to them if you want to learn more about their organization. And here is a coat drive that they did last year.
Takes a village about keeping our families together.
God bless this organization.
So everybody, there it is. It Takes a Village Housing is doing incredible things, and I'm excited to see what events transpire for them, the positive events that will transpire for them, because they are rocking and rolling and really making a difference here in the city of Camden as well, and soon to be all over the world. So that is, everybody. Let's get back to it. And here it is. So like I said, when it comes to perspective, we're gonna, some daily techniques that you can do for positivity and gratitude. You can do some journaling. You can listen to positive I am affirmations, because as we know, when those informations are saturated into our minds, then they go into our subconscious mind, and everything that we're experiencing is a result of that subconscious mind as well. I know Robert Kiyosaki actually talks about that too, as to why if you have a rich child and a poor child, because they have been ingrained from a rich family, they have a greater chance of achieving riches, because it's been ingrained in their subconscious mind as well. So read that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, if you want to learn more about that. Meditation obviously is the biggest and best thing that I can give to you guys informationally to learn more about, ourselves and to how to develop that positivity and gratitude. And yeah, those are just some of the things that come off the top of my head. But really, I just want to mention this too. The whole point of the techniques for positivity and gratitude, it's not about the actual activity or the event or technique. All of these things, what they're doing is they're raising our vibration. So you'll probably hear somebody say, oh, well, I have a vision board that I write down, or I post pictures, or I write down this, and this that I'm going to have. Well, it's not the vision board that's getting them where they need to go. It's them thinking about it, raising their vibrations, understanding that they are worthy and capable of living whatever type of lifestyle it is that they want. And that's where the vision board, the benefits are truly held. It's through the raising of our vibrations. So just make that important choice too, because it doesn't even have to be any of those things. If you are living on the beach, right, and you go out there and you just absorb and you're living in the moment and basking in the great, thing that is the ocean and the sun, and you see, people eating their ice cream and you're listening to some great music, well, if that's what you need to do in order to have positivity and gratitude, it doesn't have to be any of those other things. It's just about, like I said, being aware of what's going on in the moment and then having that positive perspective as well. So now we're going to move on to the third thing, which is the choice. Man, I can't believe this is, we've almost 48 minutes. Are you serious? This has been the quickest episode. I mean, I know I kind of say that every week, but it's so true, because when we're living in that moment and just having a great time, and when I'm spending time with you guys, my positivity posse, this is like the best time of the week for me. And I was itching to come back too after those other 2 weeks of a hiatus. But now here it is. We're going to go to number 3, which is the choice and making ourselves or being on that journey of transformation and positive change. Let me just take a quick sip. Now, it's nice to know about all of this stuff, but if we don't understand the power of our choices, like I said, the power of choices, it's so funny that we said that, right? Because, I am, all that good stuff. But when we understand the power of our choices and how everything that we do is going to receive a reaction. So if we are just constantly behind our computer and we're working on the things that we need to work on, and we're just constantly making that conscious choice to be the greatest and best that we can be, we're just, the events that will happen as a result of that will reflect whatever it is that are making the choices with. So if you're doing these choices with a positive intention and a positive meaning, then you're just going to receive more of that. But if you're doing it with a negative choice and a negative intention, you're just going to receive more of that as well. And setting intentions and goals is really, really huge in this process as well. I'm not going to say it's the most important thing, but it's a big part of it. Think about a captain of their ship, right? If we don't have a destination or an endpoint, how are we ever supposed to arrive at the place that we know that we should be? We're just going to be going around aimlessly, and yes, we could possibly get there, but it might take a lot longer to get to that point that we want to get to, or we may not ever end up there at all, because how are we supposed to gauge if we are headed towards or away from our destination if we don't have a goal, right? And I know in the business sense, if you want to achieve, the greatest amount in grossing that you ever had before, well, you're going to need some goals in order to hit what that number is, because if you don't have a goal and you don't have that number written down, how are you supposed to know that it's the biggest goal that you've ever hit? So it's really important to understand that the conscious choices build resilience as well. Nothing is arbitrary. If you try to just sit there and think that it's going to happen on its own, and you're not going to get, if you just think it's going to happen on its own, well, I don't believe that it's going to happen that way. And yes, you do hear about miracle stories of, somebody winning the lottery and this and that, but those are outliers. That's not what the normal standard version of success is. Like, it can happen to you, but you just got to make that conscious choice. And even the people that do go and play the lottery, they make the conscious choice to go and get a scratch off ticket or go play those winning numbers. And since they made that conscious choice, that is how they were able to receive their reward for making that conscious choice too. And discipline is a big part of this, because obviously it builds resilience. So for the days that we don't feel like getting our ass behind that computer, or for the days that we don't feel like doing the work, when we have that conscious choice, which is a version of discipline, then that's going to help us, battle through the moments that we don't feel like doing the stuff that we need to do. And that can be for anything too. It can be, for the biggest examples, to just say, hey, well, I'm going to, take this, I'm going to choose water over soda, right? And I know it may seem like a small choice at the moment, but that start of that conscious choice is going to lead us down that path of transformation to our greatest and highest good as well. So never undermine how big or how small a choice might be, because if it's leading you to the greatest and highest good, to your journey of transformation, then it's not a small choice, because it's positive fuel that's being added to get you where you need to go. So here it is. Lou says, as much as I love the show with guests, I always enjoy the solo shows too. Thank you so much, Lou. And I've noticed that we've actually kind of had, most of the time, the solo shows actually end up getting more views, which is pretty interesting as well. And I love doing this with you guys too, because number one, it keeps me sharp. But we get to have this intimate time together so I can hear about, your journey and your insights and your intentions of what's going on, because I always learn from you guys too. So thank you for commenting that. And I love it just as much, just to be able to share this time with you as well. Christopher says, make sure those goals are measurable and very specific. Consistency is key. Yes, I agree with you. You have to be consistent for the compound effect, right? Because if we make, 5 decisions in a row, the first one may not be as impactful as the 5th one. That doesn't make it small by any stretch of the imagination. Let me be clear by that. But that 5th decision that you do make will start to garner that confidence within yourself that can say, wow, well, I'm feeling good. What else is it that I need to do? Versus that first decision, you could say, well, it was just a fluke, or I don't really feel like doing this anymore. But when you are on that state of consistency, then that is what's truly going to get us to where we need to go. I agree with you 1,000%. Mark says it's impossible to listen to Dano and not start to mimic his infectious positive mindset and create your own. He's the man with the plan. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. And, iron sharpens iron. So with the Positivity Posse being here, I wouldn't be able to do this without you guys, right? Because if not, then I would just be talking to myself, looking like an idiot in my room, in my studio. And it wouldn't be worth it, So you guys are just important in this journey as me being here. So thank you so much for showing up, for leaving great comments like this and making this all possible. So now let's move on to the 4th thing, which is the action. So we only have a few minutes left, but here it is. When we have positive action, this is what's going to give us the momentum to keep going forward on your path. As Christopher said it as well, this could be your consistency, right? But it's very, very important to actually implement the things that we know. Because have you ever had that interaction with somebody that you try to teach them something new, or you just, not even something new, you teach them something that you found to be the truth, and they're like, oh, I already knew that. And then when you're looking at their actions that they're doing in their life, well, you're not implementing it, right? Because I know so many self-help gurus or people that say that they're trying to raise the vibrations of the earth, whether they're coaches or mentors, all these other people, and they're preaching about one thing, but when you look at their actions, it's not even remotely close to the things that they're doing. So be conscious of that too, is that action is just as important as everything else, because just because you know about something just because you know about the right way to take an action or what not to do, that doesn't mean anything. Right? Because if you're in a place that you're not supposed to be doing, or hanging around people you're not supposed to be hanging around, and you still do it anyway and you get caught up, well, just because you knew better, but you took the wrong action, that's leading you down the bad path. Come on, now we know better than that. And I'm sorry I'm getting so animated about it. I mean, I'm not really sorry about it, but it's just really important to take that action, because the applied knowledge is what's going to get us, in the applied action is what's going to get us to where we need to be. And the role of accountability, obviously, this is just as important as everything else, because I'm going to go back to the comment that Lou said earlier. Let's see if I'm going to be able to find it really quick. And this is the motivation, right? When we have that accountability system, when we have those players in place that we have assigned to keep us, accountable to do the things that we need to do, then that is just as important as everything else. Because when you have that support system, when we do start to deviate, or for the days that we don't feel like doing it, we might just give that person a call and say, yo, my Positivity Posse, I need a kick in the butt. Christopher, Mark, Lou, Jeanette, I need a kick in the butt. What information do you guys have for me? And I promise you, if you do make that phone call, we might get that extra source of motivation or inspiration, and to make that action and to carry out that action. Or we might just learn something new about ourselves, or about the support system in our lives that are meant to be there, right? Because I know I've experienced this plenty of times where, since, as you guys said, I'm chock full of this great information and this great energy, people have called me and they say, yo, Dano, I need some advice. What do I have to do? Perfect. I got you. You need to do X, Y, and Z. You're the man. Thank you so much. Click, then hang up. And I've called that same person to say, hey, yo, I need some advice. Well, I can't really give it to you right now. I'm busy. Click. And it's like, all right, well, I'm not going to take that as a negative, but number one, I'm going to be conscious of that support system in my life. And then number two, you just start to really assign those things and those actions with a positive result and a positive meaning, right? Because I could have been like, F that guy, he's not cool, this, and that. But instead, I'm thinking about, all right, well, I'm going to use this as a positive to show myself that through that result, that person is not a good fit to be in my support system or to hold me accountable. Still a great guy, still talk to him to this day. But, it's about really taking that action and, having that positive perspective as well. So celebrating progress as well. Stop labeling actions and achievements and success as big or small. Getting $500,000 is just as important as making your bed every morning, right? Or brushing your teeth 2 times a day. All of these things are leading us to the greatest path. And I know I've said that countless times, but if it's leading us to our greatest and highest path, then you can't diminish the importance of that thing that's leading us to our path, because that is the fail-safe system that we need to do in order to keep that positive action going and going, because positive action in, positive action out. And obviously, how is it that we're supposed to make, it's like going to the bank, right? You can equate it to this. If you never make a deposit an action, how are you supposed to make a withdrawal? The celebrating the fruits of your labor from that action. It's not possible to do. So that's why the action is so important as well. 2 more comments. Kicks the butt. Ouch. Yes, 100%. And Christopher says, even if it is small, it is still more than others who are doing nothing. I agree with that 100%, but I'm going to take this a step further. We don't have to compare ourselves to the people that aren't doing anything. Even if it is small, I'm going to change it to this. Even if it's small, it's still more than what we did yesterday. And it's still contributing to our path of the greatest and highest good. And let's compare ourselves to ourselves and who we were yesterday, not to all these other people who are achieving more than us, less than us. It doesn't matter, because if we focus on ourselves, then we can really learn what we need to do and what actions and what perspectives we need to change in order to achieve that success. And finally, for the last part, because I know we are just about time, the importance of self-compassion. Even if things are not happening at the speed at which you would like them to, that doesn't mean that you are not setting yourself up for success. Even if you are supposed to take steps that you're supposed to do 3 months ago, but you still haven't done them, that is okay. Just talk to yourself with a little bit of compassion, get yourself right back on track. Say, all right, well, I'm not going to miss twice in a row. I may have missed yesterday, or I've maybe missed, the start, but I'm not going to miss twice in a row. And all of these things that are happening to me, even though, they have happened, I accept them, I forgive them, and now I'm going to move on and really show myself where it is that I know that I'm destined to be and where I'm capable of being and where I deserve to be in our life as well. So there it is, everybody. That was the show for today. We just went through a whole hour of why we need to really start this journey of transformation. But even if we are already started on that journey of transformation, what we need to do in order to keep going, and to keep even going even more. Jeanette says here, celebrate the milestones regardless of how small they are, 100%, because I don't really think that they're small if they're really contributing to our greatest and highest good. And here it is one more time as a recap in case you need it. When it comes to our journey of transformation, here are the 4 pillars, or the 4 things that we need to be aware of, that we need to be conscious of. So we have awareness, perspective, choice, and action for our last one. So thank you, everybody, for being here. I appreciate you so much, so much. Even through our 2-week hiatus, you guys here showed up, showed out, showed up for yourselves, and just poured some extra energy into yourself and into the world right now. And as we know, the more that we do that, the more we will start to receive greater and greater gifts from ourselves, from the higher beings that are out there, from the universe, whatever it is that you celebrate or look up to. We're just going to receive more of that. Next week, we have Rico No Suave. He's been on the show before, And I've been on his show before, but he's going to come back to give us a little bit of an update of what's going on in his life. And when he's on the show, it really is always a great high energy time, because he's just kind of like a version of me, right? That when it comes about, perseverance and really being resilient, he is a great representation of that. So be excited for next week. I hope you take this weekend to really learn and reflect on everything that we've talked about today, but more importantly, actually put it into action and make sure that you're doing everything that you need to do to be on that great path of transformation. Final comment, great show. Thank you for the wonderful nuggets and messages. Keep up the great work. Well, thank you as well for being here, and I will see you all next week for another episode of Weekly Dose of Dano TV. Thank you so much for everybody for being here. My Positivity Posse. Peace.